Whoa! Neat. We all know that all things are made of cells. Not that kind of cell. I'm talking about the kind of cells that make up every organism in this entire world. I'm talking about the kind of cells that make up you and me.
Okay, Jill.
But cells need things like nutrients and other important things to stay alive. How do they get in? Aren't cells closed in like, say, this balloon? More like a closed balloon. See? No air can get in and out. Well, actually, cells are enclosed by a layer called the cell membrane. It's like this room is the cell, and the walls are the cell membrane. It's selectively permeable. This means that only some things can get in. It's like this door. Certain things can get in, like people.
Hi. Hey, Jill.
Other things, like elephants, are kept out. See? It's selectively permeable. Isn't that wild?
Bill Nye the Science Guy. Bill Nye the Science Guy.
Science rules.
Bill Nye the Science Guy.
Inertia is a property of matter. T minus 7 seconds.
Bill Nye the Science Guy.
Brought to you by phagocytosis. When a cell is hungry, it needs to eat. The cell membrane is made up of phospholipid molecules. They look like this. This is a phosphate head and two fatty acid tails. The phosphate head is hydrophilic, which means that it is attracted to water. It's kind of like the opposite sides of two magnets. They are attracted to each other, see? The two fatty acid tails are hydrophobic, which means that they repel water. They are also nonpolar. It's kind of like the same sides of two magnets. They repel each other, like this. But there's water inside and outside of the cell. So how do the tails stay away from the water? Good question. You see, the phospholipid molecules actually form two layers, with the heads facing outwards towards the water, and the tails facing inwards towards each other. So it looks kind of like this. There is water inside the cell and outside of the cell, so it works perfectly. Looks like this. It's also called the lipid bilayer because there are two layers. Get it? Bi, two. Isn't it wild?
Yes, Jill.
The cell membrane is also called a fluid mosaic. This is because the phospholipids in the cell membrane are constantly moving. It's like this bubble. See how the bubbles shimmer? That's because the molecules in it are also constantly moving. Along with phospholipids, the cell membrane is also made up with cholesterol and proteins mixed in. Some molecules can get through the cell membrane unaided. The only molecules that can do this are nonpolar molecules and water molecules. The bouncy balls will represent the nonpolar molecules, and the marbles will represent the water molecules. Nonpolar molecules can get through because they have no charge, and the polarity of the membrane pulls them right through. Water molecules get through because they're so tiny. The cell membrane is constantly moving, so the water molecules slip through whenever they see a space, like this, and this, and that, and that. Isn't that wild? In the 17th century, many great discoveries were made about cells. In England, Robert Hooke was doing an experiment with a piece of cork. When he saw small shapes inside, he called those cells. This was the birth of that term. Across the globe in Holland, Anton van Leeuwenhoek was making discoveries of his own. He took some swabs from a human cheek and saw small things inside of it. He called those
Beasties.
Who will be the next scientist to make the next great discovery about cells? Maybe you will. Maybe you'll be the scientist to find a huge cure for all human diseases. Maybe you'll be the scientist to find out everything there is to know about cells.
Cut.
Is that enough? Okay, we're good.
Where's our family?
No, I was laughing. The whole time. So Jill, how do polar molecules get through the cell membrane? And what about the proteins you talked about earlier? Those are great questions. Actually, the proteins help the polar molecules get through. You see, they're in the cell membrane, mixed in with the phospholipids. They are held in place because the ends of the proteins are polar, so they are attracted to the phosphate heads. The middles are nonpolar, so they just stay in the middle. There are many different kinds of proteins, and they do many different jobs and help different kinds of molecules through. One type of protein is a channel protein. It's kind of like a paper towel tube or a toilet paper tube. It's just hollow in the middle, and it lets different molecules pass through, like this. There's also a gated channel protein. This has a gate on it, and it needs a stimulus to open the gate to let molecules go through. The quarter will represent the stimulus. It comes and attaches to it, and the gate opens. Then, the molecules can pass through. When the stimulus leaves, the gate closes again. There is also a V-shaped carrier protein, which will be represented by these blocks. It only lets certain molecules through, and when the correct molecule comes in, it changes shape and lets it out on the other side. The other molecules just bounce off, and it doesn't let them through. These are types of passive transport. Passive transport is transport that requires no energy. There is also active transport, which does require energy. And active transport is needed for photosynthesis and respiration.
Did you know that? An adult person is made up of approximately 75 trillion cells. Now you know.
So Jill, how do things bigger than molecules get in and out of the cell?
Well, solids and liquids are brought into the cell by the process of endocytosis. This is when the cell closes itself around a body that is too large to be brought in by the other types of transport. Phagocytosis is when solids are brought into the cell, and pinocytosis is when liquids are brought in. Exocytosis is when waste products are brought out of the cell. This is what phagocytosis looks like.
Now you may be thinking, why is this important? Why is this important? These cells, they make up you and me. These functions keep us alive. If they weren't working, we'd be dead right now. Why is this important? Well, that's our show. Thanks for watching. You know, if you'll excuse me, I have to go feed my amoebas now. And I miss you guys all day. Aww.
Only some things can get in, like people.
It's like this bubble. It's like this bubble.
One type of protein is a carrier protein. No, it's a channel protein. Let's start over.
You, right there. I hate you. No, don't.
Now you may be thinking, why is this important? Why is this important? This will keep you alive. Can you guys stop laughing? Now you may be thinking, why do we need to learn it? I don't want to do this.
Hey, we're filming. We're filming.
We need help.
So how does one molecule well, molecules fit in the cell membrane anyway? And what about So Jill, how do small molecules fit in the cell membrane anyway?
We'll learn that next February.
Next February.